name is Moya Rowe. Just want to share the goodness of God in my life. I first started visiting FMC, Faith Miracle Center, as a visiting worship minister. The journey with my health began in 2015, December. I started bleeding heavily, back and forth to the hospital. They said there were multiple fibroids. In January, they decided to put me on a medication that will stop me bleeding any at all. So there was no bleeding any at all for a few months, because my blood count had dropped so low I could hardly even help myself. I couldn't do anything at all. I started taking that medication. There was no bleeding at all. They just cut off everything. And that went on for it was a 3-month dose of medication. But up to the 5th month, my menstrual cycle did not return to normal. There was no bleeding, and we expected it to come back. I remember I was invited to minister in a evening of worship. I think it was 2016, October, I think. It was an awesome night. And the Lord spoke through Pastor Moses that there was 2 women that their menstrual cycle will return. They will start experiencing their menstrual cycle again. I didn't even make much of that when he spoke. But I remember when service was over, there was a young woman that came back, they were visitors as well. And she came with her pastor to testify that she actually had to run to the toilet because her cycle just begun and she hadn't seen it in a while.
A year and a half now, she has not seen her cycle. She came with Pastor Morris. 1 year and a half. Doctors have checked. They don't know what is wrong with her. As we close now, she went to the toilet and the flow has started.
And I still didn't make anything of that. I was on my way home. As soon as I went into the car, my husband is a witness, I said, honey, I need to go to the toilet. I went to the toilet and there it was. My flow began. My cycle continued, but the bleeding continued heavily. I went back, they did scans. They said there is a mass in the uterus and they will have to operate. An operation was scheduled in 2016. And when I went in for pre-op a week before, my blood pressure was 179 over 114. It was cancelled. It was in February of 2017 that I became a member of Faith Miracle Center by God's leading. My family joined the church. I kept on trusting God for my health. I continue on another medication. It didn't stop bleeding completely, but it was supposed to be a measure of control. But I kept bleeding sporadically. I can bleed anytime. Anything I do excessive, I can just bleed. I can be walking. If I walk too long, I can experience that. I can be in my kitchen cooking. If I stand up on my feet for too long, I will be bleeding. So I'm continually taking this medication 3 times a day just for control, but still experiencing bleeding, but not too much. At the end of 2017, October, they did an internal scan with a camera inside the uterus. And they were determined that they will go in and remove the fibroids. That operation was also cancelled. And I remember I met with Pastor the Sunday, and all he said to me simply, don't worry about it, Sister Moya, the Lord will heal you. And I held on to that. 2 months ago, I realized that the sporadic bleeding stopped. I was on my feet for a long period of time. I was doing all the things I normally do and would experience that, but it didn't happen. And I remember saying to my husband, something has happened. And I said to him, not on the doctor's instruction, I decided I'm going to stop taking this medication 2 times a day. I'm going to take it 1 time a day and see what happens. And I started doing that. There was no excessive bleeding. Things just remained the same. Leading up, the last night we had a vigil, the Weekend of Wonders, I remember Pastor prayed as well about, women being healed of fibroids. And I said to my husband that the next Weekend of Wonders, I'll be off this medication. And he looked at me. I said, yes, I will literally stop taking this medication. And I watched myself. Things just remained normal. Up till last weekend, the last week of Wonders we had, last month, the end of it, the Sunday, I decided that was the last of it. I remember I was in the church for the day, so I spent some time praying in the house. I even sat in Pastor Moses' chair, just talking to the Lord, and give thanks to God. From that Monday, I have not taken 1 medication and I've not experienced any excessive bleeding. My menstrual flow resumed a few days ago. No excessive bleeding. And I'm just so grateful to God. I am so grateful. Haven't done an operation, but God did it all by himself.
This has been a production of Faith Miracle Centre Church, London. For more testimonies and encouraging videos, subscribe to our YouTube channel today. You can also follow us on Facebook, Instagram and Twitter. Our website is www.faithmiraclecentre.uk, and to contact the church office, call 0208 888 992.